Yo, what is going on, guys? Hope everyone's having a great day. I want to go over a few press conferences that happened. I want to go over some press conferences from, obviously, Hassan Reddick at practice, Brian Johnson, Quez Watkins. Want to go over some of that, and the special teams punt return depth chart, which is really interesting, that I definitely missed the other day. I do apologize for the late upload of the day 4 of training camp. I was just really tired yesterday. I put notes down and I wasn't going to do it until like the last night. So appreciate everybody being patient with that, and definitely check out that video if you guys have it, on all the updates from training camp for day 4 in full pads. So let's get straight into it all.
We better turn. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what is going on, guys? Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. So I want to go over some news for the Philadelphia Eagles, some press conferences. I want to put this in a separate video because I don't want to make my videos 30 minutes long all the time. But sometimes we got to go over certain things. And the first thing I want to go over is obviously hearing from Quez Watkins, which was really interesting on a lot of ways. The one thing I could say about Quez is that he was very humble about last year. Really since the start of this offseason, Quez has been very humble about his down year. And it's not like he's dropped 18 passes last year. We just hold this wide receiver room to a higher standard. And, he just made some crucial mistakes. And wide receiver 3 was a weak point for the Philadelphia Eagles last year, as well as they did. And obviously, the Super Bowl, where he was pretty much going to be given one of the biggest catches of the game, went right through his hands. The fumble in the Washington game, times at wide receiver 3 where he wasn't paying attention, or him and Jalen Hurts were on the same page. So I think the chemistry has to be a lot better going to this year. Not even just, we're not even just talking running backs that have to be more productive in the passing game, but our wide receiver 3 needs to be more productive. The one thing I could say too is, after Olamide Zaccheaus was signed, it seems like he got really pissed off that fans were really writing him off at wide receiver 3. So he went on Twitter and was like, "I'm going to make y'all eat your words." And I have to respect that. There is a fire under him, and Brian Johnson said some good things about him too, on obviously just motivation. He's very motivated. This is a contract year for Quez Watkins. This is a make it or break it for him. Now, I don't know if the Eagles are ever gonna, if he has a great year, I don't know if the Eagles are gonna resign him. I'm not really expecting him to get over 1,000 yards this year, but I think whenever he has an opportunity, he's got to make 100% of it happen. Now, Quez, quote unquote, says it's crunch time. I'm in that mindset of I'm elite. I'm one of the ones that should be reckoned with. And I think from his workouts that he had this offseason, working his tail off this offseason, he actually put on a little bit of muscle, got a little bit faster from what we heard so far. I know a lot of people have been talking about his comments saying I'm elite. That's the mindset he wants to be in. If that's the motivation that's going to help him, I'm not going to make a big deal about it, because I feel like, you have to have a mindset like that, and you can't be down on yourself from last year. And like I said, this is a contract year. This is an important year for Quez Watkins, and you never know what could happen. You know what I mean? For a 6th round pick, whatever he is, he's done pretty well for himself. There's no doubt about it. But that wide receiver 3 spot, and I feel like from what I'm hearing from the beat writers, that I could probably, that I'm not really worried about it too much. I feel like Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles really like Quez Watkins, and they feel like he is already the wide receiver 3 starter. There might be no competition because, to be honest with you, 4 days of training camp only, obviously, but, Olamide Zaccheaus hasn't really done much, and the other wide receivers, between undrafted and depth guys, whoever's there, haven't really done much. Maybe Greg Ward has caught a nice pass during camp on the 3rd day, but other than that, there really hasn't been much at wide receiver 3, and Quez Watkins had a really good day 3 practice. I didn't know what he did the other day for the 4th practice, if he did anything, but I know the 3rd practice he caught 4 out of 5, and it seems like the connection, seems like the chemistry between him and Jalen Hurts are really is really getting better. And I feel like with Quez Watkins right now, I mean, sky's the limit. And I'm not going to, I think he wants to promise the fans. I think he wants to promise himself that he's going to have a fantastic year this year. I mean, I think he's got all the tools. I think he's got the speed. I think he has everything. Some Eagle fans think he's a better outside receiver than an inside receiver, which I probably could agree with at some points. But he's not the, as a wide receiver 3, you're not the focal point of the offense. You know what I mean? When your number is called, whether Hurts is trying to check it down, he can't, or he's extending the play with his legs, you got to be ready for that football whenever it gets to you. And I think with Quez, I think we're going to be fine. If there's anybody I'm rooting for this year, it's definitely Quez Watkins to really turn up. Felt like last year he had a really good start of a year, and then I think he had the grade 2 shoulder sprain, which that news never came out last year to the end of the year when Quez actually said something about it, and then not playing consistent games, and then being given the confidence to make that catch in that Super Bowl, which wasn't caught. You know what I mean? I just don't get why they threw him in a position like that when he wasn't playing consistent games, before, right leading up to the Super Bowl, up to that moment. So hopefully this year, this is, and there's a lot of value with Quez Watkins because God forbid somebody misses a game, whether it's Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown, knock on wood. So somebody misses a game, and then you could just move him to outside receiver if you really have to. You know what I mean? So he could play both positions. Nick Sirianni, when he first got here, if you guys remember, he said that as a receiver, you're going to know X, Y, and Z. You're going to know every wide receiver position because the more you know, the more value you're going to have. And the more, if you're not just stuck on one side, you could do a lot more. And it helps against, matchups and stuff like that. So with Quez Watkins, I have no issue, and I think I can agree with John McMullen, some of the beat writers that have been talking about it, that, I'm not going to take the I'm elite thing. They're taking it out of context, saying he's an elite receiver. He's not. He's saying his mindset is elite, and that's perfectly fine with me. You know what I mean? I have no issue with that. So that's the news on Quez Watkins, and, hope more comes to it. Now, Hassan Reddick, another press conference, and you know what? After the Hassan Reddick put out that little hype video he made about him, he's not talking anymore. He's just going to prove it to the whole world, and he takes a lot of disrespect that he wasn't one of the highest. I think what was on the top 100 list, he was 65, 64, something like that. So, and out of all defensive ends and what he's become, and at double-digit sacks, it's been double-digit sacks on 3 teams. That's the third or fourth most in a player in NFL history. I don't think anyone's done that. Hassan Reddick even talked about his contract, even talking about is he playing for the money, and he said, he's like, and without hesitation, he's no, I want to get good at what I do, and I want to fix the things I watch my own tape. I want to fix the things that are weak points in my game. I want to get better. I want to be in the Hall of Fame, and he's in a perfect situation right now. Going from obviously Arizona to Carolina and then coming to the Philadelphia Eagles. Off of those two great seasons he had in double-digit sacks with them, came to the Eagles as a free agent for less money, because I think when it comes to his pay, guys, they actually asked him, are you underpaid? And he really hesitated and was starting to say things, and then he stopped and he reset, then he stopped. Like, he knows he's underpaid. We know he is underpaid. He came here because he was like, I want to, he played for Temple. He was the pick before Derek Barnett. He's got his Super Bowl nameplate on the ground in front of his locker, and he looks down at it every single day. I am telling you right now, we talked about Nick Sirianni with how that Super Bowl really affected everybody, and because usually these teams that end up out of these Super Bowls, that end up on the downscale, end up on the downside, and the team ends up in a big slump, a big hole, and sometimes it's hard to climb out of it. But I think that Super Bowl loss is going to be the biggest motivation between Nick Sirianni, between Jalen Hurts, and Hassan Reddick has also mentioned it. He's got his nameplate on the ground. He looks down at it every day before practice, after practice, and promised himself that we're going to get to this point again in time. With a really weak NFC, and the NFC is probably being the best division in football yet again this year, you never know. He just said, I'm done trying to prove myself. I'm done trying to prove myself verbally to anybody. Like, I'm just going to show it on the field, and that's it. 19 and a half sacks for the year. And it seems like no one really talks about Hassan Reddick that much, and I don't get it. he talked about Nolan Smith too, and how much he's doing good at camp with the pads on for the first day. And obviously Nolan Smith was compared to Hassan Reddick, and he thinks he's going to be a special player down the road, that he has greatness in front of him, which was a really cool thing to see. So at the end of the day, like, now I'm starting to think, like, what if he has a double-digit sack season this year? What if he asks for more money? Because Reddick's here for this year and next year, and then he's a free agent. I mean, I wouldn't even mind if he does well this year. I wouldn't even mind extending his contract for a whole nother year. Like, make him a free agent in 25 after the 25 season. Give him an extra year on his contract and give him a little bit more money if that's the case. You know what I mean? So you got a few years so you have to pay Nolan Smith. You know what I mean? And we're kind of going to wait on that and see how that rolls out with Nolan Smith and his progression as a player. But will Hassan Reddick actually, hold out next year if he has a really good year this year? Is he gonna demand more money from the Philadelphia Eagles? I don't see a lot of players doing this in Philadelphia, because with Hassan Reddick, the money is obviously important because you want to, take care of your families and stuff like that. But I think him being recognized is more important to him as one of the best defensive ends to ever play the game than anything else. Because money you'll always get every year. Playing great is something that it's either going to happen or it's not. It's going to depend on you and your work ethic and your situation that you're in, on what team you're on. I think that's what is really important towards it. So I really like what Hassan Reddick said. Just like in that highlight video at the end of it. Remember, he said, Hassan Reddick said, I'm, done talking, and he walked away because he's not talking anymore. It's done. He's just ready to just show the league that they're making a big mistake on not talking about him, and that's perfectly fine with me. Reddick's going to have another double-digit sack season this year. He would have had probably close to 30 sacks last year if Gann didn't use him in coverage too much, to be honest. I feel more comfortable putting Nolan Smith because I think he's more athletic, obviously. But with Reddick, I think you have to use him as a hunter on the edge. You got to move him around. You got to use him as a hunter and just let him be a nightmare. And quarterbacks are afraid when he's lined up on the edge, especially once you get that first sack, once you get that taste of that first sack, Reddick gets his hands on somebody, then those quarterbacks are worried the whole entire game, and like they're afraid to throw the ball. Like, I'm telling you, it's Reddick is one of a kind, man. He came here for cheap. Could have got paid a lot more somewhere else. Came to Philadelphia to finally play for the team. And that he went to Temple, obviously, and always wanted to play here. So I think there's a chip on so many shoulders this year and of a lot of players, and I think Reddick is definitely one of the biggest ones. I think DeAndre Swift is definitely another one. Jalen Hurts is obviously one. So there's a lot of guys that are pissed off going to this year, and I think we're going to see a really good defense this year. Hopefully, we got to see it on display and see what Sean Desai, how creative he is. But I feel good about Hassan Reddick going into this year, and man, the guy is having the time of his life, and he's in the best situation statistically to have better statistics and with a great defense as is right now. So I thought that was really cool. So shout out to Hassan Reddick, man, one of my favorite players, no doubt. Now, lastly, well, not lastly, but Brian Johnson had his press conference. Now, he talked about this new offense. Now, he says this offense is new, but in some aspects it is similar to last year, but what can we do better than we did last year? And I think one of those things is getting the passing game going with these running backs. That is the one element we left out, because Kenneth Gainwell was the main guy who was getting the ball out of the backfield. There's no doubt. And Boston Scott a couple times on occasions, not much, but mostly Kenneth Gainwell. Really, the trust with Miles Sanders was there was definitely no trust with him getting the ball thrown to him. I mean, you already saw it. And then when they did it, and they finally passed to him in that Super Bowl, and he almost fumbled it or dropped it, that almost turned into a fumble or another easy scoop and score by Kansas City. That scared me a little bit, and he got a little mad over the offseason after he signed with the Panthers and complained that he wasn't used enough. Let me tell you something. Swift is going to be an absolute monster this year. This running back core is going to be a monster. That's the only element we've lost out of this whole thing. Wide receiver 3 needs more production, and the running backs need to be involved in the passing game. Okay, I know we're going to run the ball. There's no doubt. but we need him in the passing game regardless. And you have the perfect matchups there. DeAndre Swift could be the focal point of this offense, and I think he will, on top of Rashad Penny, on top of Gainwell, and obviously you have Boston Scott's going to do double duty on running back and obviously special teams, most likely kick returner. Now going after, Jalen, he talked about Jalen Hurts too, and I think, says going into his third year. Progression as a player. I mean, this is a guy that's been around Jalen Hurts since he was 4 years old. I mean, his whole entire career. Every quarterback that Brian Johnson has been around has been successful. Look what he did with, Dak Prescott at Mississippi State and a bunch of. I watched a video on Brian Johnson and what he's done. I mean, between being a quarterback coach to a coordinator, and every quarterback he's been with, even under him specifically, has been successful. Okay, now he's obviously a head coach now, and he needs to look at other things besides quarterback. Now, obviously Tanner McKee, another guy, Alex. I forgot the quarterback coach's name, but has been looking after him and what he's doing with Hurts, and it's been really good. The communication between them two is perfect, and and it's already there, and that's the great thing about it, because the one thing I wanted this offseason was, man, if Brian Johnson leaves on top of Steichen, man, this is really going to suck, because now Hurts has to deal with a brand new person. You know what I mean? As a coordinator or whatever, or a quarterback coach, you'll have two new guys walk into the building. But keeping Brian Johnson, and I don't think we're going to have Brian Johnson for long. I think if the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year, or we're highly successful this year, I feel like Brian Johnson is going to be, hopefully he's here more than a year as a coordinator. I really hope so. But he's going to be a head coach sooner or later, and I think we all have to, we have to, put that in front of us. But that's really it. I mean, really talked about, how different this offense could be. And I think this offense is definitely going to expand. And I think from him and Steichen, what he's learned from Steichen last year, and there was probably a lot of instances where Brian Johnson would have done something different at a certain point. I think overusing Jalen Hurts too much is definitely a big problem, where you don't want to overuse him. You have so many weapons around him. You have a good stack of running backs to get pressure off Jalen Hurts. You have good wide receivers. You have your checkdowns. You know what I mean? I feel like feel like Jalen Hurts has a lot of resources around with all these players, and could do so much more and take the pressure off him. I'm not saying that they're not going to run with him at all. I think they will, definitely a lot. But, when it comes to like a game like the Chicago Bears, where they ran the crap out of him that much, that really scared me a little bit. And, and look what happened. He ended up getting hurt, and stupidly, I feel like the cop-out play was the read option all the time. I felt like the QB run was always that cop-out play. And yes, sometimes it did work, and then sometimes it was just way too overused last year. And I feel like they got to expand on that a little bit and just do more. Use your running backs a little bit more. Don't put, if it's the Super Bowl or the playoffs and you want him to run, and he's, if he wants to take a hit, then that's fine. It's the playoffs, the Super Bowl. I totally get it, but it's a long season. You know what I mean? To get to the playoffs, and then, obviously get to the big game if you can get there. So I feel like with Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts, just Brian Johnson as a coach in general, I think from Steichen to Brian Johnson, you just upgraded your coordinator. Not even that, but like I said, every quarterback that has been around Brian Johnson, not successful in the NFL, but at least in the college ranks to what they've become, pretty damn good. And I feel like Hurts hasn't even reached his ceiling yet. And that is very, very scary. Comes to his metrics, and it comes to obviously his mechanics and stuff like that. His deep ball, I think Hurts' deep ball is probably one of the best in the league. And I probably wouldn't have thought that a couple years ago, but look what Brian Johnson has done, and look at the work that these quarterbacks and these guys are putting in for this guy as well. So that's all I got to say about Brian Johnson. I don't really worry about Brian Johnson too much. I feel like, he was with Steichen side by side. He's been in this position before, in the college ranks, and I'm not really worried about it. I think he's going to do really well here and use every resource he can to make this offense as explosive and, gonna go get after it. So I'm pretty pumped about that. So that's the news on Brian Johnson and my thoughts on it. Now, lastly, I don't have a graphic for it because I forgot to put it up. But the punt return list right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we're looking at, I missed that the other day. So the punt return depth chart. It is Britton Covey, Quez Watkins, Greg Ward, and Alamati Zaccheaus. Now, Covey, I'm expecting him to be better, and I thought later in the season he returned the ball very well. I think a lot of it is the blocking schemes are horrible. He doesn't have the right players at those positions, because I feel like, if your punt return doesn't have enough room to do anything, I feel like, I'm not saying Covey didn't make his own mistakes, because he did, okay, running into piles of players and not protecting the ball or protecting himself, because he's only 170 pounds, you know what I mean? So or 100, whatever his weight is. I know he's down there pretty well. So he's got to protect himself a lot more, but he was too raw last year. And obviously Devin Allen is dealing with the calf injury from the Grand Prix that he ran a few weeks ago. So, these are moments where Devin Allen really needs to show up, because I feel like doing these Grand Prix and these Olympics are really screwing him up, because he's getting injured. And it's just, I understand it's his passion. He loves doing it. He probably makes money from it. Who knows? But it's just a shame sometimes. And I think Devin Allen would be on this list. Quez Watkins, I do not want to see him at punt returner. I don't want to see Devontae Smith as a situational punt returner. I want them to put faith into one guy to get it done. Okay. I don't know why they never tried Boston Scott at punt returns. I don't know. I mean, I probably wouldn't now, because I just feel like I don't really even like him at kick return. So I only heard about the punt return depth as of right now. Greg Ward, we've already been through that situation before, and that's when we put Rager in. He got the touchdown, and then Rager was the punt returner of the rest, and never made a change after that, and it really annoyed us. I think special teams is probably the worst. The Eagles probably have the worst special teams in the league, because I don't like the punter. I hope Tyler Zentner gets the job, because I hate Aaron Sipos with a passion. Okay. I feel like the kick returners are just not good. The punt returners, they still don't know. They need to get somebody off waivers. They need to find a player that played good special teams in the preseason games or joint practices. Once the Eagles make the cuts and other teams start making cuts and put guys on waivers, they have to claim somebody that has some speed and has a lot of special team return experience. Javonta Payton's another one they got from, a Tennessee transfer to Mississippi State, been around a few teams, undrafted by the 49ers. He's been around for a little bit, I think he went to the XFL as well. I'm not sure. It's another guy that has special team background. Zaccheaus would be an interesting one. I kind of want to see Alamati Zaccheaus, because he's got that burner speed. Does he have the best vision? I guess we'll see. You know what I mean? That's the big question. It's punter, it's kick return, punt return, and this list is okay. I really want Devin Allen to get a shot, man. I want him to get healthy, and hopefully he's healthy soon. The calf injuries, there's nothing you could do about a calf injury. Okay, all you could do is massage the muscles, and that's it. You can't do much. You just have to wait and wake up one day, put pressure stand with one foot, put pressure on it, and see how it feels. I mean, that's all you can really do at this point. So that is the news on punt returner and what's going on with the depth chart there. Now, obviously, if I find out more news, because I do miss some things when it comes to training camp, because I'm writing everything down and I'm kind of going over everything, and some other news might pop up. Eagles were in full pads, which was great. So we're going to be seeing a lot more competition. The videos will probably be a little bit longer, because there's going to be a lot of matchups between offensive linemen, defensive linemen, wide receiver, corners, a whole bunch of stuff is going to be happening. So hope everybody enjoyed the 4th day of training camp, and obviously enjoyed some of these press conferences, and let me know what you guys think. Do you think Hassan Reddick will try to, maybe call for a, more money if he has a good year this year? How do you feel about Quez Watkins going to the season? Do you think his spot is safe? Do you think he's going to prove everybody wrong as much as he says he's going to? And I think he will, and I hope he does. And obviously Brian Johnson, this offense, how different is it going to be? Unveiling that playbook and opening up a little bit more. And obviously the two big positions that really need to produce more is wide receiver 3, and you have the running backs in the passing game. I think that's very important. So you guys have a fantastic day. If you guys watch this video, if you guys lasted this long, 23 minutes, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like the video as well for more Eagles content every single day. You guys have a great day. And I'll see you guys on the next one. SHAKESQUAD up, follow, slide. Peace out, guys. Peace.